just wanted to try everything. I would try anything. I just like to do it. I like to try different things. And I've been all over the country in different businesses that I've owned and set up and sold. And, you know, I'll try this now and I'll try that then. And I don't know why I was always that way. I was. I don't regret any of it at all. I left some mighty good things and mighty good money and, you know, and did things that didn't make money next time. You know, I just, oh, well, I'll try this anyway. What the hell? Get rid of that money. I didn't need that anyway. My banker didn't agree with that.
Good writing. I didn't get to attend a lot of them, but the ones that I did, of course, we all had the great ice cream runs and stuff, and that was a lot of fun. And I appreciate Portis and Craig for everything that they've done this year.
My father was in the war, and he was in Kodiak, Alaska. Our families were from Louisiana and Texas, but my mother came up to Tacoma because she wanted to be able to visit if he had any time at all. And so obviously he must have. I was born in Tacoma right at the end of the war. And we were there about 10 months, and then we moved back. And I grew up in Abilene, Texas. My father and his father were bakers, and they owned bakeries. And so they went back after the war to do what they were doing. My dad was a Southern Baptist minister. My mother was secretary to the president of Hardin Simmons University when I was there. Try that on for size. Not recommended that your mother's secretary to the president of the college when you're going to school, but she was. And my dad also worked there at that time. This is way later after the bakeries. And he was at the college too. And I was very lucky that I had full scholarships for 2 years because of my SAT scores and because of the fact that both parents worked there. Later, my mother was secretary to W.A. Criswell, who was minister of First Baptist Church in Dallas, the largest Baptist church at that time. And later, she was secretary to Mary Crowley, who was home interiors and gifts, quite a wealthy woman, but also very, very religious. And she was her personal secretary. After Hardin Simmons 2 years, then I went over to Arlington, Texas, the University of Texas, and I had gotten married then, and my ex, she was school teacher, and she got a good job in Fort Worth, so we moved over there. My education was accounting. But out in college, I learned to fly planes. The University of Texas Longhorn Flying Club was gigantic. We had many, many, many airplanes, and it was very cheap to fly and get a license, so I did that. And I'd been flying. I read a Sunday paper one time, and I said, well, let's see. This guy was flying hot air balloons, and they were very, very scarce in those days. That gentleman, in Texas, of all of Texas, there were only 4 hot air balloons at that time. And so I went down to see the guy and decided I wanted to learn to fly the hot air balloons. But I realized that you could make a living out of it also, because they were so unique And you could do training and sales, and you could do advertising flights, things like that. So I got into that, and actually I did all of that. And I flew the balloons for a living for 18 years. I've flown balloons in 38 states and 5 foreign countries. And then also I twice got into manufacturing hot air balloons. A partner of mine with me, we had an opportunity to buy out the famous Don Picard and the Picard family manufacturing plant in Costa Mesa, California. So we bought him out, and we were there. We manufactured the balloons. We still traveled all over. We went and we did all the other stuff as well. And so that was quite an interesting deal. But for 18 years, I did that for a full-time living. I enjoyed it, and we did so many things. Many people, many movie stars, many different things we did, because we had the contacts through the Picard factory. And that was a part of my life that was pretty amazing. Yeah, when I left the balloons, I probably retired 3 different times. And I'd goof off a while and do something or whatever I wanted to do. And then I started a company with the helium advertising balloons. And that was a big deal. I made that into a big ordeal, big company. And I don't know why, then I decided to sell that wandering spirit again, I guess you would say. You know, I've had good friends of mine. My best friend ever lives here in Spokane. We bought our first hot air balloon together way back, 45 years ago. You know, and he ended up here as well. You know, and we've both been here now, like in Spokane area. I've been here 27 years, he's been here 25 years. He used to say to me that he never could understand why I was a wanderer and did so many different things. Because he did like same company for 27 years. And, you know, I got remarried about that time to a Delta Airlines lady. And so we were in Dallas, and I ended up, when I got out of that and sold out of that, I ran into a man. He managed the Wells Fargo investigation company. They don't have that anymore, but they did then. He came to me and said, I got a job needs to be done. And it was Carl Icahn, the real lavish investor, but he owned TWA back then. And the TWA flight attendants had gone on strike. And so he had these 2 flight attendants, very experienced, and others, but these particular ones needed to be guarded because they were going around Texas, and we're talking Dallas and Houston and San Antonio and places, and they would do big talks to people who might be interested in becoming a flight attendant, you know, because they were in the middle of the, you know, strike going on, this going on. And so I did that. I had to take them around everywhere, but I had to guard them. because it's pretty serious business. And at the time that I was doing that, I read the division manager of the Chicago division, Wells Fargo, came down and I met him. And he liked me, I liked him. And later on, he decided to go into private investigation himself. And so he did, he called me up and he said, I need somebody to work with me. And well, I'm not doing anything at the moment, so I went there. And he was very respected. He was a retired Chicago cop. And, you know, people knew him and he had a lot of business. So we were doing that for quite a while. And then because Illinois is an odd state, but in Illinois, no one can have a concealed weapon permit except cops, military. They're real strict, except a licensed private investigator, which we were. And so we, in fact, could carry firearms, and it took quite a bit of credentials to get that done, but we could. And then we got into not only the private investigation, but we got into plain clothes armed guard work, not uniform guard work, just plain clothes bodyguard. We did mostly all industrial. You know, I did a lot of death threats against executives, stuff like that. You know, I ended up myself personally, I went from mostly investigation to almost all bodyguard, because I was the one dumb enough to do that in that company. I guarded a $30,000 pair of Tony Lama boots at a country western dance place for 3 days one time, because they were really worth 30,000 bucks, you know. So we did things like that, but I'd guard diamond brokers come into town and they're carrying $500,000 worth of diamonds and go into all the jewelry stores, or I'd gold brokers. Or I guarded a couple of gentlemen that had already been shot. And, you know, so there was some serious stuff there. But I was never shot at. Thank God I never had to pull it. Oh, I came very close a time or two, but I actually never had to pull the gun and think I might have to use it, but I certainly would have if that came to be. I was married, like I said, to the Delta lady, which we lived in Dallas, but I could fly free. And so I commuted from Dallas to Chicago and did that. And then later she got a job in Spokane up here, and that's the way I ended up in Spokane. And she had a great job with Delta, which you can't find in most cities. And so we moved up here, and I could still commute from here to Chicago, and I did. And then later, we ended up getting a divorce. And when we got a divorce, well, I couldn't fly free anymore. And it was my deal I had to decide, do I want to move to Chicago or do I want to stay here and do something different? When you do that for a long period of time, someday something's going to happen. And you're going to kill somebody, or they're going to kill you, or they're going to kill your protectee. I'd rather none of that happen if I had a choice. And so I went ahead and quit there and moved back here. And so at that time I decided, well, maybe I ought to live a little more peaceful. So I went back to the original accounting, and I ended up being the controller at Huntwood Industries here, a little huge cabinet manufacturer in Spokane, for the days until I retired. My grandfather on my mother's side died when he was 39 years old of that disease. It's called polycystic disease, and it can create cysts in your body and your organs, your brain, your lungs, your kidneys, your livers, and elsewhere. And they're like, your organs are little filters. They're filters, and they're like little dams in there. If you get the cyst build up, it's a dam, and the cyst can build up behind it. And I had cysts in my body from the size of a BB to the size of an orange. I found out about it way back. My mother had it, her sister had it, and then it went on to cousins. And so in the end, I ended up with a double organ transplant, kidney, liver, my brother, kidney, cousins, kidney transplants. The only one ended up with liver was me. When I was 27 years old, the family began to talk to it, and I was in the middle of ballooning and going all over. And so they told me, go to the doctor and get checked. And they put the dye in you, and they do the x-rays, and they do all this stuff. And the doctor came back and he said, you definitely have it. And the only thing you can really do is watch it all those years. Well, that was 27 years old. And of course we watched as I came along, but really I didn't begin to get serious and fail till I was like 55. But I didn't fail till I was like 65 when I had the transplants. My brother had his kidney transplants 5 years before me. And believe it or not, we ended up having those in Baylor Hospital in Dallas. Baylor Hospital in Dallas is one of the 3 hospitals in the world at that time that had done 3,000 liver transplants. And no other hospital had come even close, and Spokane's not qualified for that. So in actuality, it ended up quite interesting in the fact that I got sick there, and I was already there. That was not planned. I realized, of course, we all realized that my brother had his transplant there. And believe it or not, when I had my transplant, it was Easter Sunday, and I was in surgery 14 hours, and the same doctor did mine that did my brother's 5 years earlier. My organs were so large because it was bad, really bad. My polycystic, the cystic situation, my kidneys had to come out because they could not remove my kidneys and put in new stuff all at one time. It's just too complex. And so your kidneys come out, and they took both out. When my kidneys came out, they weighed 23 pounds. And that's very serious business. And so they take the fluid off of your body in dialysis. And when you go in, you weigh in. And when you come out, you weigh out. And they want you to be the same. So you're maintaining fluid. But the problem was, as I went through all that, I was so weak, I had lost all fat and muscle mass, you know what I'm saying? And so when that happens, they still maintained your fluid and your weight at the same level. Well, that that works until all of a sudden you go and you do the transplants. And when I did the transplants, when I went in, the doctor told me, he says, I do this all day, every day. It's no big deal. But in your case, see, my kidneys were long gone. But in your case, my liver weighed 16 pounds. Your liver's about yay big, and it weighs about 1.5 pounds maybe. And it weighed 16 pounds. I looked like I was 9 months pregnant. If I'd have waited and we didn't take the kidneys out, we're talking 40 pounds in there, and that can't be happening, see. And so anyway, so that was where I was at. And so the doctor said, yeah, in your case, the problem's going to be getting your liver out. It's so huge. He said, you know, the rest of it, piece of cake. Well, I'm glad you feel that way. He held my liver up like this, and they took a picture of it, 16 pounds. I mean, that's two big babies, you know, and it's held up, and they got the picture and everything. And he said yours, he'd done over 500 liver transplants. He said yours was the second largest I ever did. You know, when I was in the hospital 4 months, I realized I was so close to death that it was unbelievable. I was very, very close to death. I had several friends that visit me, and later they would tell me, we thought we'd never see you again. You know, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about dying. You know, I mean, I thought I'm sick and I'm really sick and this isn't too cool, but I really didn't sit around and think about dying for some reason or another, you know, and I don't know why. I guess, you know, I mean, there was times that I couldn't even hold my head up or anything in there, but I didn't think about that. I don't know. You know, I told my friends one time, I said, I heard the voice of God. He said to me, not a chance, Bubba, not a chance. I said, uh-oh, if I get out of here, I better behave a little more. I was married the 2 times, 5 years each. They couldn't put up with me very long. But I knew about this situation. As if we talked, I knew it way back. And I never particularly wanted children, but I would not have children knowing what they were going to face. And I did know what they were going to face. And I have cousins, and they have had transplants, and they all have kids, and their kids mostly are going to face what I and my brother went through and what their parents, several of them, are going to go through. And I would not do that I just wouldn't do it to a child. I don't want to have that happen and me be responsible for, you know. And so I chose not to have any children, never did, neither did my brother. Well, you go through all of that and you come out of it and you come back home, and I finally got back home up here after 10 months, and I said, you know, you start to think about, son, you were given a second life, literally. You should have been dead and gone, and you were given a second life, and you tell yourself, and you begin to look at yourself, and you say, you know, I need to do something because you gave me that second chance. I need to do something with it. Well, I've done a lot of things in my life ahead of things. I mean, I flew planes, I owned planes, flew balloons all those years. I had boats, I had, you know, all kinds of things. And I said, well, what do you want to do to at least enjoy continuing to go forward? See, I have no family. My parents are gone, and I have one brother. I have cousins hither and yon and stuff, but no real family. And so, you know, the brother, and I said, you know, it'd be kind of nice if I had some friends to do things with. I looked at all of that, and then all of a sudden I realized I hadn't ridden motorcycles in 27 years, but I said, you know, the motorcycles are the easiest. You don't have to have all the stuff that you have with ballooning or flying the planes or boats or, you know. And I said, I started looking around, and so I went a lot of places, looked at a lot, met people, talked to them. And it came down that I finally decided to do the Harleys. love the Harleys. I like the looks and the whatever goes with it. And you talk to people, you know, and they say, I mean, Harley is Harley. If I have to explain it, you wouldn't understand. And that's the way it is. You know, if I buy a Harley, I'm buying a family too. I get the family with it, and I did. And that was an unimaginable blessing over these years for me. The first year, I didn't have people to ride with except if I would go to the hog meeting and then they would have rides. But otherwise, I was by myself. And so that, you know, I thought, I mean, I rode, you know what I mean, but it's not quite the same. And I was waiting around for a hog ride to get to ride with people, you know what I mean? And so finally, later in that year, I met a friend, a very good friend, Jim Ayers. And Jim had been riding for many, many, many years. And so we got to where, well, we'll go ride together, you know. And Jim worked for the railroad. And he would come home at 1:30 in the morning and email me and say, I'll see you at 9:30. And he'd be in my driveway and away we'd go. And he could ride circles around me any day of the week. But he taught me many things, safety and different things, you know. But mostly I think he taught me to enjoy, how to enjoy what you were doing. You know, and that was special. And so then all of a sudden comes winter, and then the next spring in April of 2012, we started the weekday wolf pack at the hog meeting, and that was, like I said, April 2012. And we started out, we only had like 5 guys, but it was, the idea was for people that, like me, that are people that, you know, people that were retired or had days off during the week, and we could go ride anytime we wanted to, you know. And so the idea was there, we can get out and go do rides, and anybody that wants to propose a ride, we'll post it, whoever wants to go. And I think that first year, if I recall, we ended up 20 some odd at the end of the year, people in the group. And of course, you know, we rode a lot of rides and a lot of miles, and then it kept growing and growing. And we just finished this month the 6th year of the weekday wolf pack. And the wolf pack now, we got up to 170 riders, and not all of them showed up. And we actually cut it about in half. So now we have about 90 still in our group. So our 6th season, we've done 377 rides and 72,000 miles. So you add all that up times the number of riders and all that, it's almost 750,000 miles. And I log everything that we do, where we go, and how many miles, how many riders, what, you know, who led the ride. I'd log all of that in an Excel spreadsheet. And I keep it all, so I know exactly what we're doing all the time. And then I have my own riding above that the first year, and then, you know, there's a few other things, hog rides and things. And myself at the end of this season, I'm sitting on 89,000 miles. And that's quite a lot for an old country boy that was sick. Well, the part that happened to me. You know, I said I had to try something else. You were given a second chance to live. And for me, I made the right decision. You know, we've still hung around a balloon every now and then. I'd like to fly some more in planes. I love that, but I couldn't do that. I can't get a medical for aircraft. You don't have to have a medical in hot air balloons. You know, but we'd go forward with the Hog Club, you know, and that was interesting. And then the Wolf Pack, and it kept growing and growing and growing and growing. But that to me was an unimaginable blessing. Family, like I said, so many friends, you know, and so I was really, truly blessed that I made that decision and it stayed, you know, we've stayed with it all this time. 400 rides, 4,400 riders, 625 passengers, and we did put it all together with the average number of riders in miles, 836,000 miles in our 400 rides in 6.5 years.
And that doesn't count today.
And that doesn't count today.
Yeah, this is like zero.
And then there was only 3 accidents in all?
Only 3 accidents in that whole time.
Wow.
And that 2 of them are sitting here and still riding.
Yep.
And the other one would be, as you know, Mike, that he had a heart attack.
Yeah, it is.
You know, after even the riding season's probably over for roughly 4 months, maybe. But we'll do dinners, breakfast, lunches.
Is this the Wolf Pack at Wolf Lodge?
Lunch and movies, we do that. Might do bowling, poker games we have. So even in the wintertime, we still have our get-togethers and enjoy our company, you know. And when you think of all the places that group has ridden, I mean, all over the Pacific Northwest and Canada and Northern California and different places, but I mean, there's a lot of rides, you know, a lot of motorcycle riding and how many new motorcycles they bought over the time and all the clothing and everything else that's been, you know, luckily I guess Lone Wolf appreciates that. A lot of service, a lot of tires, a lot of clothes. But it's been really, really great for that. And, you know, friends, they're priceless. You know, we really, the best thing we have is
Us right here.
right here.
Yes,
Yeah,
Portis.
this is it right here.
I wanna go make pictures look like postcards. I wanna go take the train and watch you sleep right in my arms. I wanna go where we don't know where we are. Climb something high, don't look down and don't look back. Yeah, when I die, I wanna know I live like that. I wanna run in wide spaces, fly like the wind in high places, rushing like water on my face, with your hand in my hand. Ooh, I wanna dance into the morning, kiss you like you've never been kissed before me. I would go anywhere you wanna go, with your hand in my hand. Anywhere you wanna go. So many things in this world I wanna do, and when I die I wanna know you did them too. Baby, me and you. Yeah, I wanna run in wide spaces, fly like the wind in high places, rushing like water on my face, with your hand in my hand. Ooh, I wanna dance into the morning, kiss you like you